and foremost, I want to understand, Siddhant, who are these people contributing to such a massive market? I'm assuming a lot of young couples, first-time job goers as well, who move to metros for the first time and don't obviously have a lot of money to spend on these, or on furniture, and also, if I might say, a little proud to ask parents either.
Yes, so I would say today, when you're typically out of college, actually it starts with people who are also in college when you're moving to another city for education or higher education. You don't typically want to go and start making investments whereby you're going to actually have to procure furniture and use capex or use any money that you have and block it into furniture pieces. You want to keep your life flexible because you're starting out your life. And of course, when you're out of college, everybody's on a budget. You're going to try to make it in life rather than try to make these investments. So yes, when you're about, we say start for a college student at 18. And for us at Fabrento, our typical target market starts at 21, where about people are first-time job seekers. They've come to Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore. These are the three main cities where the opportunities surmount more than the other places, though there's growth all over India now. And for us as well, the next focus is to go to tier 2 cities. But talking about the 3 metros, which are expensive cities, this concept works so that when you come here, you're paying rent. It's easy with the click of a button on a website to get furniture delivered to your house.
Right. But, Siddhant, then the question is, and I'm sort of putting myself in the consumer's shoe. I recently, shifted cities as well. And the question that one has in mind when it comes to, or the niggle that one has in mind when one is looking at rentals is the quality of furniture. Now, since this furniture is traveling homes, I'm sure they are bound to be wear and tear. There's sure to be some handling, mishandling, bad handling as well. So how does one be clear of the quality of product one is getting on websites like yours?
Okay, so I typically can't talk about my competitors and peers, but I can talk about Fabrento. So my family has been in the furniture industry for 70 years. My grandfather started this a furniture business 70 years ago. So when we've been in the trade for so long, and for us, the same factory that produces furniture for multinational offices, for hotels, the same factory, we have tuned a part of it to produce for Fabrento. So we actually produce the furniture in-house, so we know that there's serious quality checks. Coming to when it comes back and we turn it around to the next client, we have people in our care team who watches it. First of all, COVID taught us that we need to be very, very clean. So we have somebody who's cleaning it and bringing it to like great hygiene levels. Second of all, we have a team which touches it up. If there's a damage, it brings it back to a new. So when it actually reaches your home, you would think it's a brand new piece of furniture. You wouldn't know if it's the second cycle or the first cycle or the third cycle of the furniture. Furniture is not like an outfit. The wear and tear can be rectified in most cases. Also you're not wearing it, so there's not that much tear. Yes, of course there's usage where there's children and there's pets in the house, but because we manufacture our furniture ourselves, we know that we can bring it back to a great form so that the next person is very comfortable with what they receive, the next client.
So first, can I understand the meaning of autism from you, Veer? Since the show is about telling people what autism is, do you have a definition that you want to share with everyone?
Yes.
So go ahead.
Autism is my brain thinks differently.
Yeah.
So what do you have difficulties with?
I have difficulties with talking to a lot of people.
And when you were younger, you could not make
I
friends.
could not make friends when I was younger.
But now
I do make friends.
Yeah. And you could, communicate this so well to us. So thank you for that. So, Deepika, then the question really here is that, you know, when we were thinking about this whole episode, and I was chatting up with all of you, and I wanted to understand autism, and I wanted people to understand the meaning of autism in a spectrum. Like everything in life, it's a spectrum. People are diagnosed at a particular stage, can develop, can get better. There is life beyond that as well. So take me through. Firstly, when did you diagnose? When was Veer first diagnosed? How did it happen?
So Veer was diagnosed when he was about 3 years old. And actually we kind of found out about it or realized what was going on just because of Tari Zameen Par. There were lots of articles which came out. And so I realized that there was something different about him. He has a twin sister. And I realized that there is something different about him. And so we took him to a developmental pediatrician at Umeed Child Development Center. And our developmental pediatrician, Dr. Vibha Krishnamurthy, told us that he's on the spectrum. And it took some time to kind of understand what it was. But if you're asking specifically what it was that he that led us to this, was that he used to somehow, he seemed to live in a world of his own. He was very happy in his own company, doing his own little thing, playing with his toys. His communication when compared to his sister was much less. And we were told the standard, girls talk faster than boys. Eye contact was difficult. Eye contact still is sometimes a little difficult for Veer. And so all these things kind of made us realize that there is something that is different about this child, and let's find out what it is. And that's what led us to him being diagnosed on the autism spectrum.
Okay, and cut to now?
Well, now he's living a life which I could not even have envisioned. Veer is completely independent. He travels independently. He uses GPay. He goes out with his friends, which includes Rushil. Their weekend plans are much more than Millie or mine. And he's learning. He's doing a whole bunch of things. Like, do you want to tell them what you do? What do you do?
So my hobbies are baking, and I do bake sales and
What else?
puzzles and mechano.
And what did you do?
Ran the marathon.
Yeah. Run a marathon?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's something even I haven't done in my life. It's on my bucket list. So well done, Veer. I want to talk about all those interests, including what you have over there in just a bit. But let me bring in Rushil in the conversation as well. Hi, how are you feeling today?
I'm great.
Great? Good. So Rushil, you recently got an internship, I'm told.
Yes.
Yeah, can you talk to me about the experience?
The experience was great. I am interning in hospitality department in Hotel President at Trattoria restaurant.
Oh, how lovely. So that would include a lot of people around you all the time?
Yes.
How does that work?
Great, because I have currently interned in Autocar India in the social media platform.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. And do you think you can make a life out of it? This is what you want to do?
Yes, because I've always been concerned about what Skill Shakti was about. Because we are students that learn employability and life skills. And we are looking for more avenues to intern
Right.
in different organizations.
Right. And so glad that these avenues are now available. But Millie, before I sort of switch to, Skill Shakti and educate our viewers on what's happening, tell us about your journey with Rushil. When did you figure it out? How has it been?
So Rushil also was diagnosed at about 3.5, and it was around the same time as my third child was born. So we thought that, and at that time we noticed he had just clammed up and he was in a world of his own. He would just be spinning his toys, rocking and things like that. And we thought it's because of the new baby that he's feeling, And of course, speech and everything stopped. And then we went to Dr. Vibha Krishnamurthy. She had just come down from the States. And she immediately diagnosed him in about half an hour. And it was exactly what, and I had never heard of autism at that time. So it was a challenge initially, but yeah, with all the therapies and everything, he's come a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when, and I just want to get a perspective here. Ashwini, when kids are diagnosed, so the thing about autism is that from, I think, 12 months to about 3 years is when you start seeing the signs. And the earlier you catch it, the better it gets.
It is. It is. So, although typically diagnosis, just like Milli's story and Gopika's story, you will see that diagnosis is made around 3 years, but the signs start becoming evident at a much earlier age. And when you go back into the histories with the parents, you can see that the children's challenges with socialization, communication, the lack of joint attention with the mother, all of these things start become evident much earlier than 3 years.
But talk to me about causes a little bit. For those of our viewers watching right now, trying to understand, are there some telltale signs? Because, you know, it's so difficult to tell with kids. I have a 10-month-old back home. It is so difficult to tell what's really going on in their head.
It is, it is. So some of the telltale signs that we look at, or what we look for is how well do they relate to the people around them? How do they like to share their toys, share their feelings, share their emotions? What kind of an eye contact? It's as young as a six-month-old will start giving you eye contact and will start looking at you when you talk to them. How well is the eye contact developing for this child of mine? What is their intention to communicate? So often you see with children or with adults on the spectrum that the communication can be limited to a need-based communication. So we look at how well or what are the intentions to communicate as well. And those are some of the things that can alert you that there's something different that is happening here. And as soon as you realize that there might be something different, we urge you to go and see a developmental pediatrician for sure. Because they're the ones who will help you make sense of all the behaviors that you see in
So a development pediatrician is different from your regular pediatrician.
So a developmental pediatrician is definitely someone who's well trained in looking at how the child develops a lot more than your regular pediatrician.
I'm asking this because there is no test for autism, right? There is no regular blood test or anything you can
There are no
do.
biomarkers.
Yeah.
There are no biomarkers for autism. It is still a disorder which is diagnosed based on the behaviors that the child manifests or the characteristics that we can observe. There are some standardized tests that are available, but that is again a developmental pediatrician is best poised to administer those tests.
Right, right. So, say a parent has seen, because of awareness available today, we don't perhaps need Taris Ameeper as Deepika said, but hopefully because of more and more people talking about it, representation being really put out there, they diagnose, they go see a development pediatrician. The concept that really exists in people's mind is that this is it now, this is what you have to live with all your life. That's not true.
So, we know that autism is a disorder that will stay with you for your lifetime. However, what that means is that doesn't mean that the child will remain as they are at the time of diagnosis. With a lot of new intervention that is coming in, you have conventional evidence-based therapies, there is occupational therapy, there is speech therapy, there is psychology and counseling services that are available, there's social service that is available. All of these can contribute to making the child's functioning a lot better, communication a lot better, social skills a lot better, which enables them to then go out into the world and pursue educational pursuits or vocational pursuits as and how they would like to, or even go further and get married and have a life of their own. So therapies definitely will make a difference to the child's life. But that's again to say that autism is a disorder. Just like if I have weak eyesight, I know that I'm always going to need glasses. You can never take away my glasses and say, enough of your glasses and that's it. So I know that I will be living with autism disorder always.
Yeah, so you'll stay in the spectrum. You can get better or worse, or
your abilities
depending,
get better,
yeah,
your
yeah.
functioning definitely can get better for sure.
So Deepika, what did you do? Gopika. Gopika, what did you do? Beg your pardon there. To sort of understand this at such an early age and then to ensure that you were doing the right thing. Now you're an advocate as well.
Yeah, so I think the first thing that Vibha told us when Veer was diagnosed was do not read beyond these 3 websites. Because honestly, that is what, there's a whole crazy world out there on the internet which is very scary. And the more you read, the more scared you get. So I started out educating myself, watching videos. There was very little. I'm talking about 16 years ago. There was no Instagram. There were no self-advocates. There was no, moms talking out and stuff like that. And a lot of all the information that was given was from a Western perspective. And so I really started educating myself, taking Veer to therapy. And then somewhere along the line, I realized that we were so privileged because we had the resources to pay for therapy. I didn't have to, kind of keep working while taking him for therapy. I could afford to take him for therapy. And so I started working as a therapist at Umeed. And I worked there for 10 years, working with various kids on the spectrum. And they taught me so much. And Ashwini was a colleague there and a good friend. And then when I left Umeed in 2020, I realized that all those books that I'd read all those years ago were all from the US, from Australia, from the UK. There was nothing from India. And so that's when I decided to write my book, Beyond the Blue, because we really needed an Indian voice. And so that's how I didn't plan this journey into advocacy, but that's how it started with Beyond the Blue, and it continues.
Yeah, but talking about the Indian perspective, even the number that we were looking at, so WHO has a number which says 1 in 100 children turns out to be autistic. That number is really outdated from what we understand. Is that true?
Well, there are different resources, and if you look at different websites and different sources, the numbers do vary. WHO, we'll rely on the WHO numbers because that is more of a worldwide kind of a number. If you look at the Center for Disease Prevention in the US, the CDC numbers or Autism Speaks numbers are very different and much higher as compared to the WHO numbers. But just to be mindful of the fact that there are still a lot of low and middle income countries like ours from where the numbers are really not reliable.
Yeah, so first of all, I am super happy to be here with you, Sonal. So, okay, talking about Gloatrix, I had this idea with me since 2008. My school had a separate section for children with disabilities. And I used to observe that while all of these kids were going through their own issues, there was a 6-year-old deaf child who had no friends to talk to. So I started learning sign language to interact with him. And I asked him, will you be my friend? And that made him so, so happy. I still remember his reaction. It's etched in my memory. And since that day, I have always wanted to help deaf people communicate. It so happened that I did my electronics engineering, and my final year project was a gesture controlled robotic cars. So, using those gestures and sensors, I've always wanted to make a device which would translate sign language. And then
Brilliant.
I met my co-founder Parikshit at a party, and he told me he wants to be an entrepreneur. And I said, you know what, I need someone with exactly your skill set. The very next day we met at Starbucks, very cliched, with a small notepad, and we chalked out some of the basics. And 4 years later, here we are.
That's quite a meet cute over there between you and your founder, but what phenomenal work both of you have done. But tell us a little bit, is this patented now in India? Does tech like this exist across the globe? And importantly, how much does it cost?
Yes, it is patented here in India. There is no product available in the Indian markets as of now. Outside of India, there are some companies which make similar products, but they are quite expensive as compared to ours. In our case, we want to keep affordability as one of the main focus of Gloatrix.
Right. And what about scale here then? How will you ensure that, and where are you taking this to market next?
So we are on the 8th iteration of our prototype, and now we are ready to do pilots with organizations. So sign language translation has many applications in itself. So the application that we want to focus on here is increasing the employability rate of the deaf and the speech impaired people. So we want to pilot with organizations which hire deaf and speech impaired people as their employees. And this will serve as a workplace communications tool for the deaf and the speech impaired employees.
Right. So at what length can it go on? Like how many words can it pick up at one go?
So right now we have programmed it with around 50 to 100 gestures, but going forward, we plan on making a vocabulary of around 500 gestures, which will be comprehensive enough for a deaf person to hold a conversation at workplace.
Nice, Ashwarya. This is quite path breaking. And I believe you recently got funding as well to sort of scale it up further. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story with us, and good luck with what you and Parikshit are actually doing.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was a pleasure being here with you on this show.
All right, so that was quite amazing how AI is being used to solve social issues. But let's sort of talk about how AI is being used to solve problems at workplaces. We all know about AI being used to not delegate but elevate your work. But can you really give some palm off some responsibilities to AI? How are professions using it? So, for example, how are doctors, engineers, lawyers, even journalists incorporating AI in their daily life? We thought we look at professions in specific to try and get concrete, actionable ideas for you. Let's talk about lawyers specifically today. And, you know, a quote really comes to mind. Google CEO Sundar Pichai had once said that he is willing to bet that AI will increase the number of lawyers a decade from now. In fact, Goldman Sachs went ahead to say that they estimate that 44% of the current legal work tasks could be automated by AI. What will this do to the industry then? There was a survey done for leaders at law firms and legal professionals for Fortune 1000 companies, and just in this year, they've come out with some path-breaking findings. It says that 47% believe that generative AI will decrease costs. It also talks about 30% indicating that it will increase revenue, and that 31% of law firms have already an AI budget, and 90% are saying that they're surely going to invest in AI. So AI in law firms has arrived. The question is, how will it translate into usage here in India? So we thought we'll go around and ask some lawyers, do they really use AI? If yes, how so? And how are they managing or keeping up with AI? Here's what they said.
AI in my practice, no, per se, I haven't. But as a party trick, we did use one of the popular generative AI tools, and I must say I was very impressed with it. When it was asked the question about, to say something nasty about N.S. Nappanai, the response that came was, N.S. Nappanai is a very respected and renowned lawyer. It's inappropriate to ask this question. Seriously impressive, I must say. But whilst I may have not used AI, I was very keen on actually developing an AI tool, and that was nearly a decade and a half back. I guess I was ahead of my time at that time. Something that would be able to counsel you, to give you opinions, to give you insights into what could be a possible outcome of a dispute, a litigation, a case management or data management, studying contracts to give you an insight into where there could be a conflict. But remember, whatever an AI tool can do, ultimately you need the person, the human behind the wheel.
Well, yes, lots of devices these days are AI enabled. And in addition to it, I do use some apps which are based on AI. I used an app called Reword sometimes for writing. I also use Perplexity, which is there on my mobile. And if I want a outline about any subject, Perplexity helps. I would like legal AI, which could possibly go through my briefs, come out with a list of dates, the relevant case law, and possible lines of argument. That which younger lawyers do in a senior advocate's office. If there is an AI which does everything like that, maybe that would be useful.
All right then. So that's the current status of AI being incorporated by lawyers in India. But let's turn to an expert now. We are joined by Deepa Premkumar. She's partner at Flintox and someone who's been watching the application of AI in our daily lives very, very closely. Good morning, Deepa. Welcome to the Breakfast Club. It's always lovely to have you. We got a bit of a reality check. The statistics we spoke about, how globally people and companies are sort of incorporating AI, or law firms are incorporating AI, is much higher compared to how we look at it being sort of used or adapted to in India. This comes at a time when the Chief Justice of India has also said that even judges should now incorporate AI and use it in some form. So my first question really to you is, how exactly can law firms, since India is also just catching up to it now, how can law firms and lawyers use AI now in a daily practice?
It was interesting to hear the senior advocates ask for some of those things AI could do, because already AI is doing some parts of that in different places of the world, right? So let me give you a few instances of how AI today is shifting the legal profession. Technology used to exist earlier as well. And earlier, the law firms and lawyers would use technology to find out what are the precedents, what are the previous rulings, and get that in. So the earlier technology could collate data and collect it in one place, but artificial intelligence today is able to understand that data. And that, Sonal, is a big shift, because it's not just collating it, it understands that data, which means it's able to bring in that information and build on top. I'll give you three examples of how AI is being used by different law firms in the world today. First, it collects the data and then it creates drafts of the contracts, creates drafts of the filings that can be sent to court. There's a patent law firm which has been using it, and that law firm says that they've been able to reduce the time of patent filing by 50%, because the first draft is created by artificial intelligence. It's able to understand that, create the first draft. The second one, it's able to make the legal jargon simpler. I'm sure you'll agree that you and I would have seen contracts and say, why do they write it like
Absolutely.
this? Why can't it be a little simpler so that we lay people could understand it? Lawyers don't need to spend so much time. So there is AI and startups who are working on making that simpler, making that accessible. It's able to scan contracts, call out key sections of the contract and say, these are things that we should focus on. This is what will happen. This is the impact monetarily. This is the billing that we should send for clients and things like that. So it's able to read a contract, make sense of it, and give you the key points that you can actually work on, right? And the last one, this is my favorite example. AI is able to look at all the past rulings, the past hearings, and is able to predict what a particular judge in a particular courtroom will pass a particular motion. There's a company called Gavalatics, and they're able to use this predictive thing, saying this is most likely what the judge will say to a ruling like this, to a appeal like this, to a motion like this. And that opens up a world of possibilities for lawyers, because they can then use it and then think about, how should I play this differently? How should I approach the court differently?
So firstly, these tests out there, how many of them are really in the market that can be taken?
Oh, so there are many tests in the market, and the best test is the skin prick test, which is the gold standard diagnostic method throughout the world and endorsed by all the allergy associations. Then we have some blood tests, but in the market there are many blood tests which are not actually good for the food allergies, and they are called as the food intolerance test. And many times people will do this test, go to a lab, just do it, and they will stop taking the nutritious food which they are actually not allergic to. And they will be exposed to multiple immunosuppressive effects of not having
So it's
these
very
foods.
important to know which test to get done, and equally important to then consult with an expert and understand its outcome, right?
So best is to consult an expert, understand what do you have, whether it is a food allergy or a food intolerance, and then you decide which test to go for. Like for example, in the blood test you asked, then we once we take a detailed history from the patient, we decide what food allergy test we have to do. It can be skin prick test or a blood test. In blood test, we do a serum specific IG for that particular food allergen. And now with latest research, we have a component resolved diagnostic test where each food will be broken down into the proteins. Like for milk, we will have multiple proteins, the casein, the lactin, and all those things. And then you decide how to manage that patients.
Right. But tell me this, Doc, a lot of the Indian subcontinent now we have information that is largely lactose intolerant, and we didn't know this.
Yes.
A lot of people had bloating issues, had gut issues, and they didn't know for the longest time that it was being caused by milk. It's something that people face, I also face, but it didn't pop up. That's when you educated us the difference between intolerance of food and food allergy. Can you explain it simply for our viewers?
Yeah. So food allergy is something where if you take that particular food, you will get a allergic reaction. What you said in the, initially, hives,
yeah.
rashes full throughout the body, breathing difficulty. The patient can even collapse. That is called as anaphylaxis. But a food intolerance is basically a problem of the digestive system. That once you take the food is not getting digested properly. So you'll start getting, nausea, bloating, a desire to go to the washroom after some time, and not passing stools properly. So you may even get migraine, joint pain. So these all are intolerance, but both are different because management is different.
But is it fair to say that largely food allergy would pop up on the skin? And if it's happening in your gut, then it could be intolerance.
Yes, most of the time it will be like this, but there can be many variations to it. Like you have eaten a food, but it's not only the gut, your skin is reacting, your heart is reacting, your BP is coming down, you can even collapse. So there could be a multifacet to a food allergy, and it's important to know because management is different. A food allergy can be devastating, it can be catastrophic, you can even die with food allergy. You have read so many peanut allergy cases in the Western world, but we don't have that in India. Whereas a food intolerance, it's not a life-threatening situation, but it gives you a lot of discomfort. And just avoiding the food makes it very easy.
Yeah, it doesn't require any intervention.
So we have very simple breath test. Like in your case, milk allergy was negative. But if we do a lactose intolerance test for you with a simple breathing device, we can find it, and then we can give you lactase enzyme and you can enjoy any of your milk dessert whenever you want.
Yeah, that's good to know. And this reminds me, there's this great book by Novak Djokovic, the world #1 in tennis. He's written a book and he says that he became world #1 not because of technique, change in technique or skill, but because he realized he had food allergies that he took care of. So just catering to it really put him up there and as world #1. So that's how important what goes in your gut and what goes in your system is, and thus so important to know that you're eating the right thing and not the one that's causing differences in your body. Thanks so much, Doctor, for joining us.
Thank you.
So let's look at this data privacy story with two lenses. One with the lens of what the law can do, and the other what you and I can do personally to ensure that some level of gatekeeping is happening. Let me on that note introduce our first guest. We've got Khushbu Jain joining us. Khushbu is an advocate in the Supreme Court and also looks at this space very closely. Khushbu, welcome to TBC. Now we know that in India there is now a new law. Could you break it down for us on how these companies, which are all facing lawsuits in US, in EU, etc., under the new law, how do they stand liable for breaching of data in India?
If they have not taken your consent, consent is something which is very important over here. Consent is something which they have to take. Without consent, they can't. So there are penalties from 50 crores to 150 crores to 100 crores, each one of it. Like, for example, if they don't take your consent, there is a 50 crore penalty. If they don't provide you an option to erase, option to take back, recall your consent, not providing of that option itself can lead to a 50 crore, up to 50 crore of a penalty. For example, there is a children or there is an minor, yes, children. In that scenario, if a parent doesn't give a consent and they don't provide that form, that itself is a penalty that can be imposed. So all I'm trying here is, till now, we as a user or we as a data principal did not know our rights itself, and because of that these data fiduciaries did not know their obligations, and all these things that we are seeing today is what it is happening. And if I have to put it, privacy is a myth is what we are living today's age. So this new law will bring in ownership to your data in your own hands.
So you're right, privacy is a myth, and you're also right about now we have a law that empowers us. But what can individuals do? Like, what is the reporting mechanism in this law?
So till now, yes, you did have right to privacy as your fundamental right, and you can file a petition in the court. But then again, coming directly to your answer, that question that it's expensive affair, and individuals like you and me would not go for certain things if it has not directly affected me so much.
Yeah.
Second, that's coming in the new law, which I'm talking about, the DPDP DPDP Act, that provides for an authority, and that authority is where one can complain. And that authority will be an independent authority looking into these areas. So once you put a complaint, there would be, like, for example, it's a mandatory for all these platforms to have a grievance redressal. Not providing of grievance redressal is also a penalty imposed. Now, let's say I complain to these entities and something has not been, I'm not happy with it, or it's not been entertained. In that scenario is where I can go and file a complaint in these authority. The authorities are there in all over. If you look into GDPR also, there is an ICO, which has imposed a lot of penalties on Meta and others. The same kind of authority comes in India as well. Once this board, the authority that comes into existence, is where it will specifically look into data related aspects dedicatedly, and it will make job easier for people like you and me to put a complaint against these entities, and we can put a complaint against any entity across whichever we are using it.
You have been saying this for a while. We've had multiple conversations where you've said that data privacy is a myth. But give us some tangible takeaways today. I want to know from you, is there anything we can do on our phone right now to just ensure it's a little safer? It won't be the safest. Is it just safer?
See, we have to understand the psychological game. If anything is offered to you on internet for free, then you are the product. If any product is free, then you are the product, and they're going to sell you. They're going to sell your data. They're going to sell your faces. They're going to sell your pictures. They're going to sell your messages. That's number one. Second, if any for-profit company, now I'm distinguishing between a non-profit company and a for-profit company. If any for-profit company is promising you any security feature, Apple promising you that we will not break the key locks of a terrorist or of Delicium and all those things. Snapchat promising you that you can send your private pictures in a disappearing message board and nobody will be able to copy. Or WhatsApp telling you that your end-to-end encrypted messages are safe and will not be sharing it to you with anyone. Mark my words, they will do exactly opposite. They will give privileged access to law enforcement agencies. They will give privileged access to other business partners for those very messages. We all saw that how Snapchat's photos were leaked for millions of users, and that was only possible because somewhere it was being stored. So, they will find some way around this thing that, for example, let's take example of this Facebook and Meta deal. Now, Facebook said that your Facebook messages are now end-to-end encrypted. Fair enough. They say that we don't read your messages, but they never said that we will not give a backdoor access to a third party who can read your messages.
तो
So
करे
it's
क्या
jugglery of
जितिन?
words.
तो करे क्या
तो
हम?
अभी दो चीजें आप कर सकते हो. नंबर वन, आई थिंक अपने फोन में वही सब रखो जो आपको किसी को कीपैड अनलॉक करके देने के अंदर अनकंफर्टेबल चीजें ना हो. Now that includes your messages, your private photos, your you could say banking passwords and all. ये एक तो ये है. दूसरा, anybody at randomly who is now asking you to enter your phone number and email ID at random places like shopping stores, यहाँ वहाँ हाथ जोड़ लो, और नहीं संभल पाते तो गलत नंबर लिखना चालू कीजिए और एक फेक ईमेल आईडी बना लीजिए इसी तरह के स्पैम में देने के लिए. 1 2, जो आपके फोन के अंदर कोई भी आपका सेंसिटिव डेटा, ये तो हम ये कह नहीं सकते कि आप अपने फोन से पिक्चर्स मत खींचिए या प्राइवेट पिक्चर्स मत रखिए, सब रखते हैं, मगर हर मंथ के एंड पे आप उसको एक हार्ड ड्राइव में कहीं पे बैकअप पे ले आइए, अपने फोन के अंदर मत छोड़िए. आप ये मान के चलिए कि आपके फोन का एक्सेस कभी ना कभी किसी को मिलेगा और उस समय आपको कोई अनकंफर्टेबल सिचुएशन में नहीं आना चाहिए. उसका तरीका एक ही है कि फोन पे कोई अनकंफर्टेबल डेटा ना हो, उसका कोई और तरीका नहीं है. आप सोचो कि हमारा एंड टू एंड एन्क्रिप्टेड है, ये 24 बिट का एन्क्रिप्शन लगा लूं या कोई मिलिट्री ग्रेड एन्क्रिप्शन लगा लूं या मैं कीपैड का पासवर्ड नहीं दूंगा, जैसे बहुत सारे लोग बहुत खुश हो रहे हैं. कि एप्पल ने अरविंद केजरीवाल का फोन खोलने से मना कर दिया, मतलब एप्पल 100% सेफ है। बॉस, ये सब प्रोपोगंडा है। जिसका देना होगा उसका देंगे, जिसकी लाठी उसकी भैंस वाली सिचुएशन, और जिसका नहीं देना होगा उसका नहीं देंगे। तो मान के चलिए कि द ओनली गेट कीपिंग, द ओनली सिक्योरिटी ऑफ व्हाट यू कैन डू ऑफ योर डेटा इज यू योरसेल्फ। नो प्राइवेट कंपनी, नो regulator, no government, or no tech enterprise will come to your aid. They are all there out to steal your data, grab your data, monetize your data, and sell your data. और एक चीज और आपको समझने वाला कि जो भी हमने आज तक सुना कि फेसबुक का डेटा कैम्ब्रिज एनालिटिका यूज करके इलेक्शन इन्फ्लुएंस कर रहे थे या नेटफ्लिक्स को दे दिया। देखिए, नेटफ्लिक्स, वो कहते हैं ना, somebody was caught pants down. नेटफ्लिक्स पकड़ा गया। देयर इज नो वे दे हैव मेंशन्ड कि हमने नेटफ्लिक्स के अलावा किसी को नहीं दिया। इससे पहले गूगल पकड़े गए थे, जब उबर पकड़ा गया था, जब उबर ने आपके फोन के लाइव माइक्रोफोन का एक्सेस एक थर्ड पार्टी को दे दिया था। और जब पकड़े गए तो कहा अरे नहीं, वो वुमेन सेफ्टी के लिए हम लोग 15 मिनट बाद तक लोगों को मॉनिटर कर रहे थे, वो कहाँ जा रहे हैं और किससे बात कर रहे हैं।
Yeah. But Jitin, you've painted a not so nice picture about what really lies ahead and what current realities of our times is really. But can you give us 5 things that people can do to just ensure that some sort of gatekeeping is happening?
So instead of spending any money on an antivirus product or any encryption tool, buy a new SIM card और एक 2000 रुपए का फोन। वो सिर्फ बैंकिंग के लिए और ओटीपी के लिए यूज कीजिए। उस पर स्मार्टफोन रखिए ही मत। न उस पर व्हाट्सएप इंस्टॉल करना है, न कुछ करना है। तो एक सिम, एक मोबाइल फोन और एक अपने मुंह को बंद रखने की आदत, और अपने हाथों को कभी अपना मोबाइल नंबर, वो नंबर किसी और को अपनी फैमिली के अलावा पास ऑन करने की आदत। और 5वां, अगर आपके साथ कुछ गलत हो जाए, ये 5वीं सबसे बड़ी आदत, आपको डर के किसी को कोई रैंसम ब्लैकमेल कुछ नहीं होना है। यू हैव टू अप्रोच द रेगुलेटर और पुलिस। कोई आपका कुछ नहीं उखाड़ सकता बॉस। जैसे धड़ल्ले से चोरी हो रही है, वैसे धड़ल्ले से आप बच के भी निकल जाओगे। तो ये 5 आदत है कि एक नया सिम ले लो, नया फोन ले लो, मुंह पे ताला लगा लो, और हाथ पे लिखने की आदत, गलत नंबर, गलत ईमेल आईडी की डाल लो, और 5वां, डरने की जरूरत नहीं है। उसके अलावा इफ somebody says tells you कि आप ये एंटीवायरस मोबाइल्स पे इंस्टॉल कर लो, बॉस, लेट मी टेल यू, antiviruses on mobile phone are dead. I have never seen a case where an antivirus caught a genuine virus or a malware. It has never worked. Who and mighty who are all infected by malwares, they all had antiviruses on their phone. It never worked. तो उस पर अपना पैसा खराब मत करो। दूसरा, कोई भी चीज जो आपको लग रहा है कि यार ये बिटकॉइन में पैसा डाल दो 3 महीने में 10 गुना हो जाएगा, एफडी में 2 गुना मिल रहा है, बॉस, कोई आदमी जिसको इजी मनी कमाने का तरीका पता है ना, वो खुद कमा लेगा, आपको तरीका नहीं बताएगा। तो उसको पहले लात मार के भगा दो। तीसरा, आपके अगर कोई डेबिट कार्ड, नेट बैंकिंग अगर आप मोबाइल के अंदर इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं, तो आपको सबसे पहले ये करना है कि उस ऐप को इंस्टॉल करने से पहले आप लैपटॉप कहीं पे जाके उस नेट बैंकिंग की ट्रांजैक्शन लिमिट को आप डेली लिमिट पे सेट कर दो, 2000 रुपए, 3000 रुपए। बहुत रेयर होगा कोई आपको बड़ी ट्रांजैक्शन करनी होगी, कोई बड़ी परचेज पेमेंट करनी होगी, और आजकल सारे आप 2 मिनट में नेट बैंकिंग में लॉगिन करके हाथों हाथ अपनी लिमिट इंक्रीज कर सकते हो। मगर किसी भी फ्रॉडस्टर से बचने का इस समय सेफेस्ट तरीका है कि अगर आपका फोन वो हैक भी कर ले, ओटीपी ले भी ले, तो 2-3 हजार रुपए से ज्यादा आपका चूना ना लगा। आप समझिए, जिस गूगल की आप बात कर रहे हैं वो एप्स नहीं है, वो गूगल ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम भी उसी कंपनी का है। आप आईफोन की बात कर रहे हैं, वो खाली मोबाइल फोन मैन्युफैक्चरर नहीं, ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम भी एप्पल का है। और जितने प्रिविलेज एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव एपीआईज है उनके पास सब हैं। आप सोचो कि मैं अनलॉक, कोई मैं पासवर्ड लॉकर लगा दूं या कोई कीपैड लॉक लगा दूं, वो सब आपकी अपनी तसल्ली के लिए है कि आपकी बीवी, आपका पड़ोसी, आपका दोस्त आपको मोबाइल एक्सेस ना कर ले। कंपनी आपका सारा 100% डेटा एक्सेस करेगी, इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं है।
I love that Mickey comes in with this aura that, you know, everything is going to be right, and I'm certainly feeling it on the set here as well.
Everything is right.
Everything is right. So that's the first tip he's already given you. Yeah. But Mickey, tell us, what are the ways, or how do we keep our mind sharp, active and happy?
First of all, let's clear this misconception that your mind is in your brain. Mind is non-local. So mind is acausal, non-local electromagnetic field of energy and information with self-referral cybernating feedback loops. Now,
Translation. Translation.
In Marathi?
No. What are we?
Okay. So mind is invisible. Mind is a unity consciousness of everything that is, was and will be. Mind is that akasha, that emptiness, that empty space. So when your mind is, you are not. And when you are, the mind is not. which means mind can only exist in the past or in the future. But in the current moment awareness, there is only consciousness and intelligence and spontaneity.
So how does one keep it activated?
Certainly not with mindfulness, because that's the biggest sham of meditation. Because when your mind is full and filled with clutter, then it is going in different directions of your five senses. But empty the mind and mind the emptiness. Watch the empty space. Because when your mind is empty of the clutter, it can be filled with the light of awareness. So for your mind to be sharp, you should be in the absolute now. Kevalya ki avastha kendrit, not on the paridhi.
Yeah, but
not on the circumference.
Yeah, but Mickey, all this is great. I totally relate to it. But the question is, करे कैसे? क्या आप कुछ tips देंगे? Tips देंगे हमारे viewers को? Are there any breathing exercises that one can do? And easy to follow because people don't have the time, you see.
So सबसे पहले, mind is all about emptying. So what do? Breathe out everything. So when you breathe out everything, the least you breathe out is your biological and physiological toxins. But the best what you breathe out, the toxins of your emotions and psychology.
Just breathe out.
So Anuloma Viloma is a perfect science for mental equilibrium. But when you focus more on Viloma, emptying, the filling in happens very naturally. Because emptying is the art of consciousness, not filling in. The gap is where life comes alive. It is in the gap that when you introduce an intention, miracles and manifestation happen. It is in the gap when you know that you are breathing in the perfect rhythm. The rhythm of life gets synchronized. So SYNC, for which you need to sink into SINK deep within yourself and bring your breath from 22 times a minute to almost 6-7 times a minute. When you get there, you become sharp. When you're calm, slow, collected, relaxed, integrated, whole, pure, holy, holistic, then of course you ought to be uninhibited and at the same time sharp. Alert, at the same time tranquil. See, there's a paradox here. So, watch your breath, you will be watching the passing moment. And observe. Once you become a drashta, you become a drishti. You have vision, not a sight. And once you have a drishti, you are the master of the shrishti, which means everything that is happening, you become the collaborator of manifestation.
Oh man, Mickey is giving us one tagline after the other on what exactly is to be followed. But what I like about this is just this approach, and I think what he's also trying to say is that it's not about those 2 hours where you sit down in dhyan. It's about a way of life. It's about reminding yourself several times in a day that this is how you need to breathe and this is how you need to center yourself.
Seamlessness, attention on everything that is happening, but not moving your attention behind and forward. No fast forwarding and no rewinding. Because rewinding and fast forwarding is stress. And I had written some lines the other day that stress is nothing but absence of creative imagination.
Oh man.
Okay.
Let that sink in for a moment. Thank you so much for joining us. पूरे दिन सुन सकते हैं आपको तो, लेकिन अभी थोड़ा आगे की खबर भी बता देते हैं.
फिनिशिंग लाइन दे देता हूँ.
जी बताएं.
So my 10 commandments for your perfect mind and spirit is.
जी.
Commandment number 1, let wellness be the religion number 1 because religions divide and wellness unites. Commandment number 2, start a wellness revolution for human evolution by meditating. Commandment number 3, strong hands for bicep is uplifting of the poor. Commandment number 4, strong exercise for strong shoulders is take the responsibility of the underprivileged. Commandment number 5, if you want strong legs, be rooted in humility to be better fruited in humanity. Sleep every night with a wish to heal yourself. Wake up every morning with a promise to heal the world.
Wow.
And then you can get energized, naturalized, optimized, maximized, internalize, eternalize, revolutionize, evolutionize, revitalize, regularize, humanize, immunize. With Sonal and Mickey get mesmerized. With the Breakfast Club get hypnotized. And everyone gets Mickey-mized.
I love it. That's your morning wrap and that's your morning health wrap, really. And this people must please save it.